Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, just like Reggie, we're disrupting the game again, baby. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I am always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including Reggie's new book. And then on Thursday, we are determining how to bring every Zelda game into the modern era. But Mark, in the meantime, how you doing?
I'm doing great. You know, one side effect, Patrick, I think of the pandemic that I did not expect is that I got so used to my hair not looking very good that that has become my new normal. Whereas before, I think there are and I think it's kind of a good thing for me because previously days when I would be like, oh, I'm having a really bad hair day. Now I'm like, actually, it's not so bad. I can live with this.
Sure. Well, okay. I mean, we should frame it in a different way, though, right? Not that you are more content to have bad hair, but that you are just more appreciative of yourself now, and you're like, hey, this hair is pretty good. I'm doing okay.
Sure. Yeah. I think that is. I like that both things are true, but you're just framing it in a more positive light, which.
I don't want you saying that you've lowered your standards for yourself.
No, of course not.
Say that you have raised the floor on how you feel about yourself.
That's right. I'm body positive. I love me and every hair on my head.
God,
diminishing though it may be.
I think the listeners can hear you rolling your eyes, Mark.
No.
Speaking of things at which we should be rolling our eyes, the Sonic Forces borrowing program. How would you like to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces? Mark, would you be surprised to learn that both Sonic Forces and Untitled Goose Game have returned to me in the week that we were away?
It's a joyful occasion every time they make the return home, but I always have faith that it's going to happen.
Yes, as do I. If you would like to be among the next people to borrow my copy of Sonic Forces, all you gotta do is email us at Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com and give us a mailing address where I will send you my copy of Sonic Forces, or maybe a box that says Sonic Forces on it, but inside is actually Untitled Goose Game. You get to play it for as long as you want, and then you send it back. It costs you nothing. I pay for postage. Both ways. Both games are back in my possession. I need to send them back out. So get your name on this list. Because I gotta start sending emails to see if people are still interested in it. Some people have been on this list for years.
The other thing you can do is you can leave us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Favorite us, leave us 4-star reviews if your podcast app only does 4 stars. It helps get the word out of the show. Helps more people find the show. So it's all around a positive thing. If you leave us a review, we'll give you a shout out on the show. We only check the US Apple Podcast Store, but if you rate us anywhere, send us an email, send us a direct message on Twitter, and we'll be sure to give you a shout out. Thank you to everyone who has done so.
Is there a podcast platform that awards Michelin stars, and can we get Michelin stars for this show?
Ooh, that would be so great if we were the first Michelin star rated podcast.
Yeah, let's make that our goal for 2022.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Yes, that feels achievable to me.
Yeah, setting goals early. So first we need to establish why a podcast would be awarded Michelin stars at all, and then we need to be awarded them.
Yes, a heavy lobbying effort is going to be required, but I think we're capable of doing it.
Yeah, I like it. All right, Mark, enough screwing around. Let's get into what we've been playing this week. So, Mark, I feel like the main event here is going to be The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword, which you have started playing. I have not started playing yet as I was traveling this weekend, but I just wanted to check in with a couple things before we talk about Skyward Sword. Um, First being that I last week mentioned that I was playing Metroid Samus Returns. I put that a little bit on pause because I was like, no, what I want to do is I want to play this in the like extra difficult mode that you need to scan in the Metroid Amiibo. Naturally, I wasn't traveling with the Metroid Amiibo, um, and I had forgotten the sort of like ins and outs of this thing, right? That there is a the normal mode that you can play from the get go, and then there is a hard mode that you can access after you've beaten the game, or if you scan in an amiibo, you can play in fusion mode.
And remind me what fusion mode is?
Mark, I'm not sure that I can. I think it's just hard mode, but Samus is wearing like her outfit looks like the fusion suit, or it's just colored like the fusion suit.
Okay.
Like it still has the, sort of like big shoulders that Samus has in that game anyway. And not really like the, how she's got like kind of more like pointy shoulder pads in the fusion suit.
Yeah.
That's not really how she appears in fusion mode. But let me tell you, the amount of damage any enemy deals to me in fusion mode is just bonkers, just like off the charts. There's, I'm very early in a run of it right now, to the point where I have, one reserve energy tank. So it's just an energy tank, and then, so it's the equivalent of like 200 pieces of health, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there are enemies, regular enemies, crawling around on walls that one-shot me, that kill me in one hit. And it is so not what I think. Like that is not the challenge of Samus Returns that I like respond to or like engaging with. So I don't know if I'm going to pursue it too much further, or just go back to the regular difficulty. But yeah, just wanted to report that I am attempting, at least for a time, fusion mode, and it is difficult.
It reminds me of when I tried to replay Breath of the Wild on whatever that difficulty mode is called. I'm blanking
Master
right now.
mode, yeah.
Master mode. And like I couldn't even get off the Great Plateau. I was just like, nope, this is too much.
Well, the weird thing about Breath of the Wild is, in a lot of ways, the beginning of the game is harder than any other part of the game, right?
Totally.
So yeah, the master mode beginning is not easy. The other thing I just wanted to touch on briefly is that I have my Zelda and Loftwing amiibo. They arrived while I was gone, so it was just waiting for me on my doorstep when I returned on Sunday evening. And that's a big amiibo. It's big and handsome. I like it a lot. I'm looking forward to using it to fast travel. But I had seen in the days leading up to the release of this thing that, due to delays in production / distribution, not everyone is getting their pre-ordered Zelda and Loftwing amiibos on time. So here's a statement from Nintendo. Quote, "The Zelda and Loftwing amiibo figure is currently impacted by unforeseen shipping delays. As a result, only a small portion of the Zelda and Loftwing will be available on its scheduled July 16th launch date. Additional shipments are delayed until August. We will ship additional amiibo to retailers as soon as they arrive." So, sorry to everyone who pre-ordered this thing and didn't get it on time, and have to wait a little bit longer to, be zipping around to and from Skyloft with ease.
Oh, so there are even like pre-orders that didn't get fulfilled.
That's my understanding, yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, so I have been playing Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. This is the first time that I've played this game. I'm only about maybe 2 hours in, 2.5 hours in. I'm in Farron Woods right now. And I am really, really enjoying it.
Oh,
So
great.
yeah, one it's such a contrast to Breath of the Wild, which has like a very like stark presentation. Like Skyward Sword is the beginning is like it's a fair amount of story, but I love being in Skyloft. Do you know what it reminds me of for whatever reason,
Mhm.
I get major like Lord of the Rings, The Shire vibes from Skyloft, where it's like,
Sure.
man, like I just want to spend time here. Like the music is great, the environment's really pretty. The world just like it seems like a great life being in Skyloft. And I think that this is my favorite so far, like version of the relationship between Zelda and Link. Um, I'm really enjoying them as characters, which again, like is not really something that I looked at Breath of the Wild to, or really any of the other like Zelda games, or maybe outside of Wind Waker, have I felt like there's much of, like a connection, or that
Yeah.
the relationship between them is fun. And yeah, so you the majority of that 2.5 hours has been pretty much like the first half of that is in Skyloft. It took me about an hour to get off of Skyloft. And then once you're on the ground, like I'm really early into the game. And so Fee um there's been a few times where she popped up where I was like, "Oh, that's interesting that you would choose to pop up here." Um but it hasn't been so much that I'm like annoyed by it. It's just like
Yeah.
notable that it happens. Uh and then I have been playing with motion controls, which I am for the most part enjoying, or at least finding fine. Like, I don't really love combat in this game. I find it to be like a little too time consuming in the same way that kind of like with Samus Returns a little bit, where I feel like it's a lot of stop and go, because in order to engage in combat, you have to like really engage with it. And so that part I'm not loving, but the the motion controls I have found good, except I cannot figure out for the life of me the motion controls when you're flying. You're supposed to like be able to ascend using it, and I cannot figure it out. So whenever I'm flying, I flip to the regular button controls, because it's like super easy to control your bird when using the buttons controls. So anytime I have to fly, switch to button controls. Anytime I'm doing anything else, I switch to motion controls, and it's worked pretty well. But it's like the characters in this game are so much fun. Like the NPCs are so good. In like the marketplace on Skyloft, like they each have such great personality, and like distinct personality that comes through in their like little bit of dialogue that you have with them. I'm really impressed with it so far.
Oh man, that's great. It has me very excited to come back to this game. That like, I had only really played a couple of hours of it before on the Wii, and like I don't really have solid memories of it. So like I'm coming back into it with some level of familiarity, or will have some level of familiarity, but I am certain that everything is going to mostly feel new. So that, yeah, your description of it just now has me very excited. I like the idea of these Zelda NPCs that are as interesting but not quite as ugly as Twilight Princess. Because I love those characters, but some of the Twilight Princess designs are just like frankly grotesque,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's on purpose. But yeah, to engage with like a colorful, fun version of that has me super excited.
Yeah, the character designs and like their expressiveness and everything are very Wind Wakery to me.
All right,
Um
all right.
yeah, it's I loved Breath of the Wild. It has so far been very fun to go back to this other style of Zelda. It feels very like nostalgic, even though I've never played the game. But like who knows? Once I get into it, maybe some of like the things that I'm not finding frustrating now will begin to like frustrate me more. But so far, I've just been enjoying like luxuriating in the world and really taking my
Yeah.
time, because I just find it really fun and beautiful.
I'll have to have my own experience with the game as well, of course. But many years ago, we determined the best Zelda NPC of all time, and I believe we didn't have a single representative from Skyward Sword. So maybe I don't know that we need to revisit that entire topic, but it may be worth determining the, like five best NPCs from, not to give other people ideas for podcasts that we might do. But the five best NPCs from Skyward Sword, like just kind of off the top of my head, there are a bunch of candidates for that. Um, that might be fun. So that's earmark that for a future episode.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
All right. Well, that's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be playing next week.
So today, July 20th, Chris Tales is released on the Switch eShop. This is like a looks very like hand-drawn, hand-illustrated RPG that is supposed to be like a celebration of JRPGs of the past. Has kind of a Chrono Trigger vibe. It is not like pixel art at all. It's very like illustrated, but it gives me kind of Chrono Trigger vibes in that it takes place in the past, present, and future. But in the trailer, it talks about it happening like simultaneously. So you see some of like the combat and stuff where it's divided into 3 sections, and
cool.
one each representing each time frame. It looks really cool, like visually, and so that's released today. On Wednesday, July 22nd, is Pokemon Unite, the new Pokemon MOBA game, is released on Switch before its mobile release later this year, maybe even next month. And then
what are our expectations for Pokemon Unite? I know neither of us are MOBA guys, but like, does that thing seem like it's poised to actually do anything, or like are the MOBA and Pokemon audiences too different, or is it about to just envelop the world?
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like I'm such a terrible judge of that sort of thing. I think it looks to me like it could be a lot of fun. I'm kind of hoping it gets a scene around it because I think it would be fun to see competitive play of this.
Yeah, totally.
And then on Friday, July 23rd, another entry in my favorite type of game that I don't play but I'm so pleased exists. Truck Simulator 2 is released on Switch. This is it looks like it is not just a truck simulator. It looks like it also includes like forklift simulation within a warehouse, but it seems like there's a lot of like tight turns that you have to make as, a giant truck. There's one part where you're driving a like delivery truck precariously on wood, like slabs that are separate, that are placed on different shipping containers, which seems not safe. But I feel like the simulator community in general, whether it be truck simulator, farm simulator, driving instructor simulator, feels like a very wholesome community to me. Like people just really love lawn mowing simulators, and that's just their thing. And so if for whatever reason they're really toxic, nobody tell me. I want to live in the world where,
we like our ignorance.
Yes, where, CPA Simulator 4 just has like the best, most supportive fan base.
Mark, as you describe the kinds of things that you have to accomplish in Truck Simulator 2, those are like nightmares that I have. That like I'm in some downtown area and I have to drive a truck through like a tiny alleyway or something, and there's 4 inches of clearance on either side. I don't know why that very specific dread hits me every night, but it does.
Yeah, completely. Well, if you want to like overcome that fear in the safety of your own home, Truck Simulator 2 might be for you.
All right, Mark, let's close out the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance, 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, today we are discussing the prompt, if we could go back to college, what would we study? This was suggested by Benton and Brian for our 433 episode, which was now, I don't know, like months and months ago. Thank you guys. And we are running out of 433 topics. So if anyone wants to email us, Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. To send us some topics. Mark, what did you study in college? What do you have a degree in?
So I studied history teaching. is what I studied.
Yeah, and I have degrees in English and music. Um, so I don't know if I could go back to college now. I don't know that I can choose like a more fun set of things to, or like a more in line with like my values now set of things to major in or to study. But I don't know what about you? Is there something that like you wish you had studied?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I would ever get a degree in it, but one of the things I like enjoyed about that time in my life was like, yeah, you had the opportunity to dabble in so much stuff, right? And like as an adult, you don't have as much time to just kind of like try things. Cuz like right now like I would love to just try taking a like computer animation course. I would love to
Right.
try to take pottery or like something like that. And so I don't know that I would go back and like major in something, but I would definitely go back and, do a bunch of electives. Just be like, yeah, like I'm gonna try my hand at this, I'm gonna try my hand at that. Um with the idea that it's like, yeah, I would just like to see what that is.
Yeah, it's tough because like I think about places like skill sets that I'd like to learn. Um and very few of them seem like the kind of thing that I would major in, right? Like there are I I have access to very few languages in my life. I speak very little broken Spanish, and I would love to be able to speak more Spanish. But like, would I want to be a Spanish major? Like,
hmm
and I understand that's not the question. The prompt is what would you study? So possibly that would just be it. That I would take because in college I took a year of Russian, um, which is ridiculous. Why would I do that? It doesn't make any sense. I already knew a little bit of Spanish. I should have built on that knowledge base instead of being like, what's a weird language I can learn? I should have been practical about that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess like in some ways, yeah, like that makes I agree with what you're saying for sure. But I also think like it's such if you're it's almost like how lucky you like people are to be able to spend time studying, like something that maybe doesn't like end up being your career, but then now you just know it.
Yeah.
Like you're
Yeah.
just, like um people who have the opportunity to study music and or like filmmaking or French literature, and French literature doesn't become their life, but now they've like studied French literature. Like that's so cool.
Yeah. I mean, that is very cool. But also, if I just had like a basic understanding of economics and finance, like that would also be rad, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And also when you're like, how expensive it is to go to college and then be like, I'm just gonna dabble. It's hard it's
Yeah.
hard to like square those two things. But I think for me, like that is what I enjoyed so much about that time in my life. And so it's like, yeah, like that is what I would want to do if I went back is I would just want to take the opportunity to like be introduced to a bunch of things that I'm curious about.
Yeah. So that is funny that like, and I assume that in going to school for teaching history, that is a pretty broad curriculum, right? That like you do have access to like sampling sort of a lot of things, and just like pedagogy classes all end up being holistic in some way, right? That there's like some child psychology in there, and just how to teach things and all that sort of stuff. So I think you and I probably did a pretty good job of using college in the way that we are describing right now. And I wonder how much of that is us self-justifying how we spent 4 years
Luckily,
of our
this
life.
podcast is not for self-examination because if it was, we'd be in a lot of trouble.
Yeah, no, I mean, absolutely. The only things that we examine on this show are topics that we cannot discuss during this segment at all.
But of course, we'll never know
And
for sure.
we'll never know for sure. We were accompanied today by the ensemble at the Musical Instrument Museum in Phoenix. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
Gamescom, the largest gaming show in the world, and the unofficial end to the Summer Games Fest, that apparently is still going on.
Still ongoing.
Yep.
Yeah.
Has shared a list of participating publishers and developers. And just like in 2020, Nintendo will not be in attendance at Gamescom. But here's who might have something to show us that could be Nintendo related. So, scheduled to show up is 505 Games, Activision, Aerosoft, Assemble Entertainment, Astragon Entertainment, Bandai Namco Entertainment, Bethesda Softworks, Electronic Arts, Gameevil Come to Us Europe, everybody's favorite, Head Up, Indie Arena Booth, Koch Media, Next Studios, Sega Europe, Team 17, Thunderful Games, Ubisoft, Wargaming, and Xbox.
So a lot of publishers and developers in attendance, and that's not necessarily a complete list. Gamescom is it's the end of August, I believe. So it's still a ways off. So there could be others joining that lineup. I don't know. Is there anyone in there that you are particularly tuned into? It's missing a lot of our like normal favorite heavy hitters, right? No Capcom, no Square.
Yeah. It doesn't seem like a ton of. I guess Bandai Namco's in there, but otherwise doesn't feel like a ton of like Japanese developers. I feel like 505 Games, and I'm saying this without being able to necessarily pinpoint a specific game or handful of games, but I feel like they have recently been publishing things that I am interested in and have been showing up on Switch. But otherwise, I don't know. Do you think Sega Europe, do you think we'll see anything Sonic related?
And out of Sega Europe, I don't really think so. Most of the Sonic team is based in Japan, right?
Yeah, I believe so. Okay, real fast. How do we think that this is supposed to be pronounced? It is Gamevil as one word. And initially I was like Game Evil, but now I'm thinking it's just Gameville. And then the second part of it is COM 2 US.
Yeah, so that feels like it's come to us, right? But I also read GAMEVIL as Game Evil. Like Primeval is how I'm reading that.
Yeah. Well,
never heard of them. Don't know them.
Yeah, I guess if anybody knows, let us know. Last week, Bloomberg ran an article claiming that the Switch OLED model cost Nintendo just $10 more to produce than the regular model. But so since it's only $10 more to produce, but they're charging $50 more for it, then Nintendo is like increasing their profit margin significantly with this new model, rather than I guess just like having it cost exactly what the components cost. I don't really understand that part.
I mean, the very first thing to pinpoint here is like that this logic is stupid, right? Like the logic of this complaint that it only costs you $10 more to make, so it should only cost $10 more. I mean, if they if it costs the exact same amount and they still had to like change their processes, it means that they sunk a cost into changing their process.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I left out that part where people were upset. There were some people who were upset.
Sorry, my bad.
That based on this report, that like the disparity between the $10 increase in components, reported $10 increase in components, and like the $50 increase in price. Interestingly, I think to me like the most interesting thing out of this is that Nintendo actually released a statement specifically speaking to this report, saying, quote, "A news report on July 15th, 2021 claimed that the profit margin of the Nintendo Switch OLED model would increase compared to the Nintendo Switch. To ensure correct understanding among our investors and customers, we want to make clear that that claim is incorrect. We also want to clarify that we just announced that Nintendo Switch LED model will launch in October 2021 and have no plans for launching any other model at this time."
It is very interesting that they put out a statement about this at all, because like it's kind of just weird Nintendo fan grumbling, right? But I wonder if just like addressing profit margins specifically, if they were like, well, hold on, wait a minute, this has financial implications for us, and we need to like say something about it as to not lead investors in one way or another.
Yeah, that's what it feels like. It feels like it has to be like investor related somehow, because
Hmm.
otherwise, why come out and like correct the record in this way? And like, I feel like with them being so explicit and being like a publicly traded company, that like the amount that they can lie is really small. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like, a lot of times they won't comment, or, they'll deflect in some way. Like, I feel like them saying like, we have no plans for launching any other model at this time. Like, you can read that a million different ways. That doesn't mean that we're never going to have a new Switch revision. Um, but the first part, yeah, it feels very pointed to investors, or that feels like the only audience where it makes sense.
Yeah, totally. It is interesting though that they only state that the claim is not correct. They don't go on to say it only cost us $11 more.
Right. Yeah. Speaking of the Switch OLED model, pre-orders became available last week on Thursday at noon Pacific time in the United States, and it's I don't remember them doing this in the past for other stuff where they're like, this date and time,
Yeah.
pre-orders will become available for this. Neither you or I were able to grab one. We've been on this podcast. I was like, I don't think I'm gonna get one, but as with so many other things, the hype got me, and I was like, do I like? Am I gonna be missing out? Should I get one? Tried to get one, was not successful in getting a pre-order.
What were you on like right at noon trying to get it, or was it like 12:05 and you're like, "Yeah, all right, I'll do it."
It was like 12:05, and I had
Yeah,
seen,
okay.
that they had popped up on Walmart, and they had popped up some other places. So I was like, oh, like I'll see if I can get it at Best Buy. Was not successful in getting it at Best Buy.
Yeah, I mean it seems like these did go pretty fast, but maybe not in the like, blink and you miss it, kind of like hyper limited supplies. I also don't know like what the demand for these things truly is at this time. But yeah, it doesn't seem like it was so flash in the pan as kind of previous high scarcity items have been.
Yeah, yeah, totally. It'll just be interesting to see. I don't know that we'll ever like really know how. I guess we will. I'm sorry, I keep backtracking, but at first I was gonna say I don't know that we'll ever know how well like the OLED model does. But then but Nintendo does break out, or at least they have
Yeah.
historically. They have broken out like how each individual model performs. So I guess we actually probably will know.
Yeah, I mean, but I guess the part of it that is hard to know is uh like it's just gonna sell every copy of it that they can make, right? So like the numbers are gonna be supply constrained and not demand constrained. So we may never know what like the actual audience for the Switch OLED model is. Just because it's gonna be filled up by the people who want it and the people who want to buy it to resell it.
Yeah, that's true. Also, over the weekend, the Skyward Sword Joy-Cons were available again, at least for a little bit, on both GameStop and Amazon. So, I wondered, like, were they able to ship more? Did they ask those retailers to hold some for release date?
Yeah, yeah, it is. I don't know if like Nintendo is like doing this sort of thing consciously, or if it's just like, oh yeah, they were able to make more when they realized that there was a lot of demand for, because I mean honestly, if you're making just more Joy Cons for the special Skyward Sword, like you just change a paint job, like that's pretty straightforward, right? um that I like the idea that they are playing with their pre-order and distribution models to get things into hands of more fans, um, because there is such a problem right now with the secondary market, scalpers and stuff like that. So that just dropping everything at one time isn't a surefire way to ensure that the most fans are going to get their hands on it.
Yeah, I always wonder what companies' feelings towards like scalpers are. Because on the one hand, like
Right? Who
they're making a
cares?
sale either way. Yeah, yeah, I you would hope I would think that the more like consumer advocate part of it is not into it, but financially it doesn't really seem to make any difference other than maybe you run the risk of like frustrating fans who aren't actually like able to get a hold of it.
Yeah. Yep.
For the Switch OLED model, GameStop was also taking in-store pre-orders, at least for a little bit. So if you are looking for one and you struck out online, maybe give them a shot. I really have no idea what the situation is there, but you might be able to find a place that is doing it. I don't know, like, you have a note in here that is always pre-orders for this thing were a mess, and it really does feel that way. It's just like uh the
Yeah.
it feels great if you're able to get one, but otherwise it's just kind of like a frustrating scramble.
Yeah, and it also like just reflecting on it is like, oh yeah, I don't know when or why this is ever going to change. Like this is
Yeah.
just where we are with Nintendo products and probably where we'll always be. I mean, can you imagine if this was a Switch Pro? Like if they had revealed what everyone dreamed it was going to be. There's no way that they would have lasted even the 5 minutes that like you had given it, and uh, everyone would be furious everywhere. So like,
Yeah. Well, you know
I don't know.
what's so crazy is it is with like this with Nintendo, and it does feel like it's kind of always been this way. But like it feels like everything right now is kind of
Yeah.
like this. Like Xbox is selling every single one that they can ship. PlayStation is nowhere near meeting demand. The people are going crazy for graphics cards. It's just like gaming in general just feels like it's trying to get new hardware is really competitive.
Yeah, well, and also, I mean, we are living in a world that is just barely recovering from slash still totally embroiled in coronavirus pandemic, and supply lines are constrained all around in
Yeah.
every industry.
I bet that's
So
what happened with
yeah,
the Skyward Sword amiibo, where
yeah,
they're just sitting on some shipping container somewhere that can't get into a port.
yeah. Oh, and I mean the Suez Canal only recently got cleared of that ship that was blocking it, right? Like, all these things that were like, oh yeah, that's gonna affect whatever, and then it didn't get taken care of for weeks. So I don't know. We live in a big, complicated world. That we thought we were shrinking with the internet, and it's like, no. I mean, honestly, things still need to move around the world. That's still super expensive and all that. So, yeah, I mean that's that's just where we are, and it's a scary little thing to come to terms with. But maybe it means that you don't get your video game as fast as you expect to.
Also, the Hallmark Nintendo Christmas ornaments went up for pre-order last week and are sold out. I I would have liked the Super Nintendo one. I thought that was really cute.
Yeah.
It like the light turned on and everything when you hit the little power switch. So maybe, when we get closer to the holidays, I'll be able to find one somewhere. But feels like I'm probably out of luck.
Pro- Probably, yeah. That's yeah. This is another one where it's just like, okay, yeah, you just can't get anything you want.
Well, maybe we'll be able to get this. Former Nintendo of America president Reggie Fils-Aime is writing a book. It's coming out next year, and it's titled Disrupting the Game from the Bronx to the Top of Nintendo. Good title, strong title.
I love it.
Here's a little bit of the blurb. It just says, gaming legend and boss level disruptor Reggie Fils-Aime, retired president and chief operating officer of Nintendo of America, shares leadership lessons and inspiring stories from his unlikely rise to the top. He mastered these lessons to build a long and storied career, and you too can leverage these lessons to springboard your own ultimate success and happiness.
Mark, just based on that little bit of the blurb, how do you think this will compare to the Iwata book that you read earlier this year?
Yeah, I'm feeling this one's going to be a little bit more irreverent, whereas the Ask Iwata book was very reverent to the memory of Iwata. Reggie famously, in fact, he includes it in this blurb. I'll keep reading a little bit. Although he's
Yeah.
best known as Nintendo's iconic president, actually, sorry, interrupt myself real fast. Patrick, I think we can count this as another entry in great moments in corporate copywriting. Okay,
Yes.
so here I go.
Absolutely.
Although he's best known as Nintendo's iconic president of the Americas, immortalized for opening Nintendo's 2004 E3 presentation with, quote, "My name is Reggie. I'm about kicking ass, I'm about taking names, and we're about making games." Reggie Fils-Aime's story is the ultimate game plan for anyone looking to beat the odds and achieve success.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of that like bravado, a little bit of the awkward machismo that Reggie used to bring to Nintendo Live presentations
Mm-hmm.
in the blurb about the book. So I can only assume that the book itself will also have similar qualities.
Yeah, it definitely feels that way. It feels like it fits the man for sure.
Is this a book that you are interested in?
No. Not particularly. It feels a little like self-helpy to me, in a way
Yeah,
that
it
I
does a
find a
little
little
bit.
off-putting, where it's like back to the blurb, how to maintain relentless curiosity and know when to ask questions to shatter the status quo. Just it's just a bit much for me. But actually, I say that I'm hopeful for, like, I think there will be fun anecdotes about his time at Nintendo that will definitely be worth checking out.
Yeah, it really is fascinating, right? Because like Iwata's book is not really that much about video games, right? It is a lot about like sort of business philosophy and like creative philosophy, like how to get good creative work out of people. Um, and in some ways that also feels self-helpy, but just knowing that it's not written from that perspective. And this one, whether or not it's written from that perspective or just marketed that way, um, it feels like such a distinct, like, here is a Japanese approach and here is an American approach.
Yeah,
And like I find
totally.
one of those should just be crass.
Yeah, and the other thing that's, different is, like, Iwata's book, or the Ask Iwata book, was written by somebody else,
Sure.
reflecting
Right.
on Iwata's, like, life, using some of his words in telling that story. But really, like, round of applause, copywriters, job well done for sure.
Yeah, very exciting language.
We are nearing the release date of Neo: The World's Ends with You. Comes out on July 27th, so just next week. Pre-orders, of course, are available, and GameStop is offering a neat pre-order bonus. It's a sheet of magnets featuring 2 of the characters from the game and 8 badges that all look like the powers you use in game.
Yeah, so again, Mark, I don't really I don't remember if you played much of the original, but like these little badges that you would equip like via the touch screen, um, are obviously like very graphic and distinct in the game, so that you can pick them out just by sight and know what they do. And so it's kind of cool to have a digital thing turned into a physical reality. Like I thought, we see so many of these pre-order bonuses that are that basically, but sort of nonsense. Even today, when I picked up my copy of Skyward Sword, it came with 5 what are they called? They're like device decals or technology decals. I think they want me to put it on my phone or something. Um, but that doesn't feel right. If they're little badges from the game, then that makes sense.
Totally. Well, pre-orders are open, but also early Saturday morning, the Square Enix US online store started just sending out digital codes to people who purchased the physical Switch version of the game. So people who were pre-ordering the physical Switch version of Neo: The World's End with You, they were like immediately getting sent a digital code that they could put into the Nintendo eShop and download the game and just play the full game. And so the game is,
Hmm.
and eventually they got that fixed, but the game is out there. So if you are trying to avoid spoilers, I guess just be aware that the game's been out there for like, or will be out there for like 10 days before it's actually released. So oops.
Oops.
Techland has announced Dying Light Platinum Edition for Switch coming this October for $50. It includes the game, the 4 DLC packs, 17 skin packs, and support for like Switch features like HD Rumble, gyro aiming, motion controls, touch screen support, and it'll also have local and online co-op. I mentioned this one because I played through Dying Light on the PS4 with a friend and had a blast. This was a really fun like open world co-op zombie game. Um, and I didn't touch any of the DLC or anything like that. But I think this is pretty fun that it's coming to Switch.
Do you think that it's a game that you will revisit on this platform, or you basically had your experience with it?
I think I've had my experience with it just because of the time that I had to put into it. But if people are like even half interested, I would encourage them to look into it because I really had a ton of fun with it. And finally, Among Us will be the featured game for the Nintendo Switch Online subscribers game trial. So every once in a while in North America, Nintendo Switch Online subscribers get this free access to a game for a specific set of time, and you can play. It's the full game, not a demo. So Among Us will be free to play for Nintendo Switch Online subscribers from July 21st to July 27th.
Which is cool. Among Us obviously doesn't really need any kind of extra eyes drawn to it. Like everyone is pretty much aware of what a success it is. But it's neat. I've never played this game before, and so maybe I'll save myself the $5 and play it for free.
Yeah, I mean I think it's great that they're making this a free trial. I think the game is free on mobile. And so if you want to check it out for free, you can do it at any time. But if you don't have you don't have access to a smartphone or a tablet or something, then being able to check out this game that's currently in the zeitgeist for free is pretty cool.
All right, Mark, let's close out the news. And that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Mark, I think we pause at this moment because this is the last episode that we are recording before my predicted date of learning more about the Legend of Zelda 3D remasters. I have predicted that we will learn on Thursday about other Switch games that are remakes of Zelda titles from earlier in the series. Do I still think that's still going to happen? Do you think that there's a chance that any of it still happens? How are you feeling about my predictions at this point?
I think Aonuma is a truthful man, and so I think when he told us at E3 that there were no other games coming, that I believe him. Of course, I support you in calling him a liar, but I believe him.
Well, again, I will draw you back to his language of no other new games at this time. These
fair.
games are technically be old.
Totally fair.
But we will know soon enough whether he is a liar or I am wrong. Those are the only two options we have here. Thank you so much for listening to this show. Please remember to rate, review, and follow us on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, please share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share stuff. We appreciate it when you do that. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nincart Society. We also have a Facebook page, which is just Nintendo Cartridge Society. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.
My name is Will Himes, and I am a ghostwriter, meaning I write other people's books for them. And I have a podcast called I Will Write Your Book, which are recordings of my meetings with my eccentric clients, such as a woman blocked after one sentence of a children's book about her dogs, a romance novelist who dislikes sex, and a man proud of having sampled everything in his local grocery store. This podcast has been described as fully improvised, played by some of the best comedians on the planet Earth. Hey, that's pretty good. That's I Will Write Your Book on Campfire Media.
Campfire.